It's going to be Ben Nace on, I believe, Tank Terapagos versus David Hedlund on Raging Bolt.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
So we're going to see what is going on here. Now, we've actually seen both of these guys a little bit. David and Ben, both really, really upstanding guys. We've seen them around the Long Island TCG scene for a little bit. Honestly, both pretty good players, and honestly, hopefully we're going to see a pretty good match here. More than anything,
we are looking to load the bench. So ideally, to make it very difficult for David to get the response KO, you definitely want to be putting Bouffalints down so that it takes up the 2 bench slots. Ben wants to get his bench space to 8. If he can get to 8, then David's going to have a really hard time trading back and forth. So what Ben needs is a backup Terra Pokemon so that when we get the knockout, it doesn't matter really that it doesn't reduce the bench size. Because if you knock out the only Terra Pokemon and then your Area 0 Underdepths is still in play, your bench goes back down to 5. You have to discard cards. So
there's our Terapagos.
All right, so we've got our second Terapagos now. So the idea here probably is we want to get our benches at 2, 4,
so something
5,
I'm noticing.
6. So probably ideally is
the Bouffalints, right? I think those are the last 2 that
we want to get Bouffalints into play,
here.
but Ben, it might be difficult for Ben to do that. So there's also a world, because David did not attack on his first turn going second. The initiative is not on him to take prize cards. So what we can do now is that if Ben does just swing with the Fan Rotom, he can follow up with the Terapagos if he doesn't get enough Pokemon to actually do anything. He did attach to the...
There's our Bravery Charm. So now, with those 2 Bouffalints, if they do end up coming down this turn, Terapagos has an effective 340 health.
Okay.
He did decide to pass here.
Didn't get anything else to actually get an attack off. And that's actually better, because it puts it on David to get a Gust in order to get another attack.
Yes, absolutely. And there's our Teal Mask.
Teal Dance ability from David. Yep. That's the Koraidon.
Oh,
but
okay.
An ancient Pokemon did not attack the previous turn, so we cannot utilize that.
Not yet, at least.
Okay.
So what would need to happen here is that David would need to go for a Raging Bolt attack and then directly go into potentially either a straight attack with the Koraidon or a boss attack.
Okay.
But it is one of the more important cards, going with that Noctowl.
Here's David's Noctowl. Yep. That is the only one on the board. Notice that Ben does have 2 more Hoot Hoots on the board, which gives him access to that play later on. We'll have to see what David actually gets in terms of his cards, but... we do have access to probably Sada plus an additional card that gets some energy into play. David will be able to take 1, but, we'll have to see how exactly he's able to get it. Probably, he is a 2/10 if he is able to get the 3rd energy or just a raw attach. So if he has a Gust, he could punch the Latias this turn and take 2. That sets up his 2/2/2 prize map.
Yep.
If he has a boss or...
Did notice that was an Ultra Ball and an Earthen Vessel trying to go through more of that energy acceleration, so Professor Sada's Vitality is going to be a little bit more efficient. Okay. So it does look like... Let's see what David's searching for here.
Got a little judge check going on there, but we'll see what he can do from that position.
What do you think about the game so far? I mean, honestly, both players have been trying to get to where they need to go pretty quickly here. It's likely we're going to see an Ancient Pokemon attack this turn, so Koraidon could potentially be set up the next turn, but Ben is looking really, really nice with that already with that first Terapagos in play.
The problem is that this can flip. It depends on David getting because since he does have the 1 energy on the Ogerpon, he can technically get the boss KO this turn. So it depends on whether David sees that line and he's able to access that line with the boss's orders. If he does that, gets the attach, and KOs the Latias, he does take the first 2 in this matchup, which can be pretty tough for Ben to respond with because he does have to have a bench of 8 the entire game.
Yeah, which obviously, otherwise he would have to go through and boss an Orgapon every single turn in order to secure those 2 prize cards, because obviously with an 8 bench, it's
even then, it's a bench of like 210 versus 240 in Terapagos is a bench of 7 versus a bench of 8. 7 is not exactly the easiest thing to get either.
Yeah,
he's at 6 now, which is great, but we'll have to see what exactly David's able to access on this turn. Ideally, we want to see 2 prize cards taken no matter what. It's probably going to be tough.
There's our manual
attach.
There's
the attach. So he's using Sada. Okay. So right now he is committing to just KO.
Those are some good cards that he just picked up. That was Crispin, Latias, and a Grass Energy, which means we can now get to that second Teal Dance.
Well, it's good. The problem is that we will have to see now, since the bench is 8, We will have to see now what David chooses to do, because at the most now, David can only take one prize card, which means that if Ben takes 2 in response, he can now go 2-2-2 and win, which means that Ben now has initiative to win the game.
Now, if David activates Burst Roar here, does that count as an attack for the Ancient Quaridon?
I don't know, actually. I'll have to figure that out.
Because if David doesn't want to take a prize card here and does not like his hand, he could potentially opt to Burst Roar and then potentially go into the Quaridon next turn.
I'm not sure.
But we'll see what he decides to do.
Let me get the old encyclopedia out here. I will double check the text.
Okay, so he did end up deciding
for you.
While you're doing that, he did decide to go for the attack there, so he did get to take his first prize card on that Fan Rotom. Okay, so now Ben Nace obviously down to 6 bench here. Or no, I'm sorry, 5 bench. So we're going to have to see. There's the Pheasantipity, obviously, with that flip the script ability. Going to grab those 3 cards.
You are correct.
Okay, so
if one of your ancient Pokemon used an attack last turn, this attack does 150 plus 30, which is 180, which can be 360, which is enough to get a KO.
Okay.
That is probably going to be, if that's possible, that is going to be a very big attacker in this matchup.
Was that an Iono?
Does seem like it was.
Believe
Ben
so. Yes, so
Ben
that was
does
an
need to
Iono.
see cards.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Here's our Bouffalints.
The bull.
So we get that curly wall ability. Obviously, we got our
activated Pheasantipity.
Yep.
There's
our
second
2 boofs.
Bouffalant.
Okay.
And now our
so
bench
now,
is 8.
Yes.
So now this means that Ben now takes the first 2. That is very important in this matchup, because now when you're trading back and forth, as long as Ben can repeatedly provide 2 prize attackers or 1 prize attackers that can take 2 prize cards every turn, Ben will have initiative to win. Initiative in a matchup that's like a turbo matchup like this is very important, because now Ben takes 2, or David took 1, Ben takes 2. David takes 2 in response. He's only able to go down to 3.
Yeah.
Ben takes 2, he goes down to 2.
David
takes 2, he goes down to 1. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
And then Ben is able to take his last 2 to win before David can take his last prize card. So, you definitely want to be taking 2 prize. Like, that is the main strategy of both of these decks in this matchup, is that you want to go 2-2-2, and if Ben is not able to go 2-2-2, Ben has the option of supplementing 1 prizers to offset the prize trade. David does too, but it's a little bit harder. Given
so there's
specific
that Fez, right? So we got another Fez down there.
Sure.
So again, let's see if David decides to use that
the
Ancient Quaridon, because with Asadas, it is definitely possible to just flat out knock out that Terapagos this turn.
Yeah, because what is Terapagos' effective health total right now?
So
it
now
is 230 plus 50 for the Bravery Charm, which is 280, and then it takes 60 less, which is 340. So the Quaridon, if I did look at this text right, it is 180 if an ancient Pokemon attacked last turn. So what now can happen is that David can now provide a 1 prizer to trade into the 2 prizer.
So
that is likely his best situation.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how David decides to tackle this. I don't know if he's going to just swing with a Raging Bolt here. We do know that the Quaridon was in hand.
He does have access to it. He needs at least 340.
Okay, so there's our Teal Dance.
So it would be set. We'd need 5 energy for the 350 to swing. So
that's a lot of energy to give up here.
Yeah, and Ben, if he has a benched Pokemon to place down and already has the energy cards, he is trading in. So basically, what's going to have to happen with David is at one point he's going to have to trade with a 1 prizer, or it's going to be looking pretty grim for him in terms of the prize trade. Let's just see what he does. Okay, that's main attach for turn.
Yep, so it does look like he's not going to be going to the Quaridon.
Setting up the next attacker. Yep. That's fine for now. Because technically you do have 1 more turn to attack with the 1 prizer if you want to.
I think David's considering whether or not he is going to fill up that last bench slot. So again, normally, obviously, Raging Bolt is not usually using that Area 0 under depth, but in this case specifically, since they do play those Terra Teal Mask Gorgapons, David can also take advantage of that bench space.
And it's now become a pretty common aspect of that deck too now, is because a lot of the time using Noctowl and being able to get access to the exact turbo cards you need in order to swing, that kind of is what gives this deck a little bit more power and what gives it a good matchup into certain decks like not like Terapagos, but more so like Dragapult. You could probably do some damage into Terapagos too.
David decided to pass there, actually.
No,
did he?
Did not. No, he did not. He did not.
He made the hand motion. Oh, no, I'm sorry. So that was a, so he was just going from that position. So,
yeah.
Okay, so that is... Was that his second manual attach?
That's Teal Mask. I know he did attach earlier. I just don't know if that was the Sada versus not.
Okay. Let's see what happens here.
Okay.
Got our Hoot Hoot.
So we're giving ourselves access to Noctowl for other turns, because if Ben does have any disruption and he has no Noctowl, then it's an issue.
So I'm assuming David is holding off on using that Koradon just in case.
So that's
we've got
2, 3. He needs 5. It's 350. He needs 5. 3,
right.
4, 5.
Yep,
Anticipating that.
There is our multiplication. 7 times 5, we have 35. All right, so that is the Terapagos down. In this case, Ben is promoting the second Terapagos, obviously already charged, ready to go.
He's going to use Flip the Script off Pheasantipity. He draws 2 more cards. I think he needs to bench a Terra.
He does.
It sounds strange to say, because he doesn't want his bench to go down, and he wants to give himself the option to be able to swing back in response for game off the next turn.
Considering that Nest Ball.
Because he did Fez.
There it is.
Pokemon was knocked out the previous turn. He's going to Nest Ball. Let's see what he grabs.
Ooh,
There.
Blood Moon.
Okay, so now this puts it in a situation where the bench will go down, but Blood Moon is enough anyway. David taking a 2-prize knockout will go to 1 prize card left, which means Blood Moon can attack for free. This essentially, if David attacks with a 2-prizer, this essentially sets up checkmate. So what has to happen now is that we would want to see David bench the Koraidon and swing with it into the Terapagos, so that Ben has to provide a he has to provide a Gust and an attack from Blood Moon or Saluna.
Okay.
I don't see any disruption out of David's hand right now, and he probably does have to Sada in order to get enough damage to KO this thing with the 2-prizer. So we'll have to see how exactly this is going to go.
Yeah, so David not setting up the Koraidon earlier is we're going to have to see if that ends up, causing problems for David. Just because now, since we have to, in order to get that Koraidon charged, we're going to have to commit to using Sadas instead of a Boss's Orders or an Iono or something like that. So we'll have to see what David decides to do.
Those energy attaches matter a lot of the time.
Yes, absolutely, especially in the Raging Bolt matchup where those energy are finite and you want to use as many as possible as humanly fast as possible. So, okay, so Earthen Vessel getting 2 more grass energy there.
Yep. So I assume he's just trying to get, like, his goal right now, he's trying to piece out an attack. His plan, David's plan, seems to be just swing with Raging Bolt over and over and over again, like the deck has done in days of old. The only thing that I would stand to, maybe suggest in David's position is potentially just try to attack with a 1-prizer, offset that prize trade, because what's going to happen now is that if you're able to see to the end of the game, Ben does potentially have checkmate in his hand right now via attacks with Blood Moon. He discards the bench, he swings with Blood Moon, that's game in hand. So
Teal Dance there.
Either that or David would have to provide a Bravery Charm to make his HP bigger than 240. Blood Moon Ursaluna's attack is 240, so it wouldn't be able to knock it out in that turn. So we'll have to see.
There is another Hoot Hoot, so it is possible that David would be able to get that basic.
Although he did bench it this turn.
Yeah, so it would have to be until next turn. So we'll have to see what David decides to do.
All right, that's 4.
There's our second Teal Dance.
So we already Sada'd. We already did the double Teal Dance. Or actually, no, it was the double attach from last turn with the Sada. So he would just need to Sada in order to get there, or place down a 3rd Ogerpon is enough. So I think that's what he's going to do.
There's our 3rd Ogerpon.
Okay, he's got it. So he definitely has the swing and response, but unfortunately that does seem like the response is going to be game from Ben. David's bench is 8. He cannot bench the 1-prizer. I think he realizes this at this point, or he knows he's kind of a little bit iffy. Did he bench the Hoot?
It was last turn, I believe. So he can actually use. I do believe he is able to use the Noctowl this turn.
That was my bad.
So Bravery Charm is going to be the or Ancient Booster. Who knows? David could be using Ancient Booster. So
I think the best route now then is probably maybe KO a 1-prizer, maybe the Bouffalant, so that Ben or one of the Hoot Hoots or the Hoot Hoot one of the 2 Hoot Hoots. Oh, nope. He's deciding.
So David,
it's a best of 3. Sometimes it's just best to decide that, we're scooping it up, go to game 2.
Yeah.
Because we got to decide that game is cooked.
That was an interesting game 1, though. It kind of sucks that, David didn't see the Koraidon play. It probably could have broken him out of a sticky situation, especially after that turn 3.
Yes, for sure. Unless,
attack.
Maybe he doesn't realize that the 360 is enough with Ben. Unless it is 60 less damage before resistance, or 60 less damage before weakness. That is
That's
the
a
only thing if
good-
Koraidon is enough on that regard.
We might have to ask that question. That might be a good thing to figure out, because if that is the case, then because if it's 60 less damage before resistance, that would mean it would not be
Yeah,
enough
let me
damage.
find out.
So at least for right now, it does look like we are going to be, obviously for this next game, let's hope that he can see that play going forward. At least for right now.
Okay, so it's 60 less damage after applying weakness and resistance. So now that that's been confirmed, so what that means is that it'll go to 360, then 60 less after that point. So it goes.
So it wouldn't be enough.
No, it would be. So because Terapagos' actual HP total is 280 with the Bravery Charm. 60 less damage applies to the 360, so that means it only goes down. It goes down to 320. It is 300 even,
okay.
which is just enough to KO a Terapagos.
Right, because of that 280 health total.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
So now Ben. So
we're getting
what
set
I'd
up
like
here.
what I'd like to see from David is him recognizing that Ben has produced Terapagos every single time as an attacker with a full bench to knock out those Pokemon. We did see that David had the Koraidon to play with, and hopefully we can have him attack repeatedly. David has opted to go second again. Maybe there's a world where we could see David go first so that he could get the Fan Rotom into play. Okay. Pass back to David. David can get a one-prize knockout here, potentially if he does have the Gust, if he has Prime Catcher plus Sada plus the attach, or, everything else into play, he could get the knockout on the Terapagos this turn. That could be a big...
And there's our Teal Dance.
Big swing there.
Is that a Jamming Tower?
I see one Jamming Tower.
That is a Jamming Tower.
So this Jamming Tower looks like Area 0 under depths, and I don't see much else here. I see an Energy. I kind of see... We'll have to see what he can pull.
That is actually a very important card in this matchup, obviously, because if a well-placed Jamming Tower could mess up the Bravery Charm, and as well as any of the keeping Ben Nace off of his own stadium in the obviously the Area 0. But
now we see the Iono. That means that you're not using Sada. That is a problem because now, David needs to put a board together now. So we have the Koraidon. We have an Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball does guarantee the Fan Rotom, so we get a board setup guaranteed. That's great.
Yep. I did see that. There's that Koraidon. He just gave up that Koraidon again.
Yeah, I do not think he sees the line where he could potentially do that. I mean, he does. He probably does play Night Stretchers.
That is true.
So you could stretcher it, play it later.
Yep,
but
absolutely. The other thing interesting too is giving up that Jamming Tower early. That could have been a very important key piece later.
Yes, I agree. I mean, there aren't a lot of tool cards that really, aside from just the Bravery Charm, which could make it a lot easier for David to provide that, because in order for Ben to even get an attack off, he must provide the Stadium. Now Ben can just replace the Stadium, not really care about it, kind of be done with it.
Pass from David there.
Okay, so this Ultra Ball, we'll see what he grabs, because it could be his first Noctowl. Noctowl could give him a Search card, a Supporter card, anything of the sort. We'll have to see what he can actually produce here, because if he does do that, then he can't retreat the Noctowl this turn, which is probably a good thing in thought here, because David would have to Gust in order to get anything going, and David doesn't have any Noctowl cards out. No Hoot Hoots, no Noctowls. Right now, we're just going bare bones, Raging Bolt deck.
Now, what is the A spec that Terapagos is running nowadays? Super Scoop Up?
It is Super Scoop Up.
Okay, so now we've got so that's an interesting card here, because obviously if David can't secure a knockout, actually Ben is actually just giving up Super Scoop Up altogether, going for that Professor's Research, it looks like.
The problem is that Raging Bolt likely will be one-shotting your Pokemon no matter what anyway, so there's no damage to really heal effectively by playing the Scoop Up Cyclone, so it's kind of a useless card.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, like we said before, with David already having a Jamming Tower in play, all it would take is Ben Nace to pick up one Area 0 Underdepths to start his game plan. So we'll have to see if he picks it up from the Professor's Research. There it is. Yep, so that's our Area 0 Underdepths given up there. Terapagos is now charged, so Ben is now going to start loading his bench. Oh, he did end up using the Super Scoop Up there. Interesting. So he had the Area 0 Underdepths in hand, and he hadn't used the Professor's Research yet, so that's what happened there. So now we're going to have to see what Ben decides to do.
Got some chatters in the chat. Welcome, welcome. John Smoke and Mirrors, love that guy. I love that guy too. He's
he's a pretty cool dude.
Smoke and Mirrors local shop. John's pretty cool dude. I like him a lot.
Pretty cool guy. Yeah.
Oh, David kind of recognizing there ain't a lot going on with his board.
Not sure, actually.
So I think, I think that's Christian Epo DR, our fellow caster, if I'm not mistaken. Did Dan win on Friday? We're referring to another local. If you've ever been to Smoke and Mirrors on Long Island, great local place to be, as well as Collectors Emporium that this tournament is sponsored by. I do not know. I wish I knew.
We could probably look it up.
In the meantime, we ended up running home before them.
In the meantime, Tropico CX going for that knockout on that Teal Mask Orgapon, taking the first 2 prize cards here. So remember you were talking about before about having that lead, right? Taking those first 2 prize cards in a beat stick matchup like this. So this is going to be tough. We're going to have to see how David responds. It's not looking good.
It does not look good at all. David did not get any of his Noctowl Lions into play, did not get any of his attackers into play, has no energy, no setup. And Ben's got a bench of 7. Like, if at the very most, David could string together a 1-prize knockout. The problem now is that if Ben just benches another Pokemon and swings again, what happens? You know, David, that's probably too much of a gap to get past in order to win the game. But we'll have to see what he's capable of doing. Looks like he's trying to get some energy, maybe thin the deck. If he can get Pheasantipity down, maybe draw some cards, try to get to where he needs to go in terms of, just stringing together a good attack. That has got to be his best. Oh, he's shaking his head.
Yeah,
he doesn't
like it. Yeah, I also did get to catch there was another Tropicos in Ben's hand, so Ben can absolutely get to that 8 bench space next turn to knock out this Raging Bolt. So we're going to have to see what he decides to do.
Yeah, seems like it might be a pretty decisive game 2. It is currently Swiss. We currently have 22 minutes in Swiss, so there is a chance for a game 3. Both of these decks do function pretty quickly if the players are piloting them at decent speed, so we'll have to see what happens, although Ben is looking pretty dominant in this match.
Absolutely. The only thing I do see is that there are not 2 Bouffalant in play. There's only 1 Bouffalant in play in this case. David has decided to give up the Latias as a...
And I think that's an okay move. I mean, where David already knows that he's in a bad situation. He has to be able to string together 1 attack and so that he doesn't immediately lose. There you go.
There's a Crispin. Yep,
Crispin to charge up a second Terapagos. Yep. Right now, we're effectively setting up a checkmate board state, almost no matter what. Yeah, almost guaranteed.
And Ben actually opted not to even put because Ben, noticing that he's in such a dominant board position here, opted not even to put down the second Bouffalant.
Doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to. So just going for the straight 240, going to try and end the game right here. So we will see. Ben's just deciding
what he wants to attach to. I assume he just attaches and charges up another Terapagos. That's really what you want to do.
Yeah, 1 and 1.
Okay, so that's smart. 1 and 1 as well, so that all he needs is an attach in order to swing. And then so he'll knock out. And now it is up to David. 1 card to draw, 3 cards in hand total, I believe, either 3 or 4 now. He will have to piece together the world in order to get a return KO.
And he can't even use the Cridon. Right, because there's
no attack,
so I think it's brave. It has to be exactly Bravery Charm on.
Bravery Charm swing is the only out. Now the problem is that since we're benching Pheasantipity, we do open ourselves up to a counterattack.
Right? So there is a Hoodoo in play, so Ben can grab it.
He'd have to have double Bravery Charm. He'd have to have Sada, double Bravery Charm, and at least 4 energy. I believe it's 280 because. Or actually, no. Yeah, no, 280 because
he gave up a Teal Mask already, right?
So 1 Bouffalant in play, plus there's no Bravery Charm on the Terapagos. So it's 70 times the amount of energy. You need 4 to hit 280. So because 220 or 210 is not enough to KO the Terapagos. So we're going to have to see what happens here.
To the Teal Mask.
And a Hoodoo. We've got the main attach.
So now we have access to the actual attack itself. He just goes straight for the...
David responds, and that's it.
Okay,
all right.
And that's our game, guys.
Swift 2-0 from Ben Nace to David Hedlund. Definitely David not drawing very well in the second game. Did not look too good for him there. But
really dominant performance by Ben, though. Genuinely, that's what that deck does, man. It gets set up really quickly, straight into that 2 energy attack to hit for 240. Genuinely a good showing there.
I think Ben recognizing that David didn't really have a lot of variance in terms of what his attackers are. He kind of saw that David's attack stream was just Raging Bolt, Raging Bolt, Raging Bolt. The only thing that Ben really needs to do in that situation is just attack with Terapagos. And if he whiffs an attack, Ben wins. If he takes the first 2 prize cards, Ben wins. If David missequences and, again, whiffs an attack. Ben wins.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
It kind of comes down to that, and I think Ben definitely just executed that strategy very well. I would have liked to see the Ancient Koraidon, because after Ben offers his first attacker, that is a Terapagos. That is easy to hit if you attack with a Raging Bolt the previous turn.
Yeah.
So,
and
maybe
funnily
you could
enough,
go
I'm pretty sure the
2-1-2.
Koraidon can go into itself, right? If a Koraidon attacks.
It can't. It's one of your other ancient Pokemon. So it has to be Raging Bolt Koraidon, Raging Bolt Koraidon. It has to go in. It has to go back and forth.
Which, although that deck can do that,
It
though.
can.
Yeah.
It can. But the idea is that you always want to attack with Raging Bolt first, and then you would attack
Right,
with
with the
Koraidon and maybe combine some sort of hand disruption, something like that. Force David to make a move in response,
absolutely.
or force Ben to actually have something. If he doesn't, then you get to attack again, and that's great. But if you don't get to attack, then it's curtains. So
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, in this case, we did get to see that where David in that second game really didn't get to any draw.
Yeah.
It kind of, was a really rough one for David. And unfortunately, being in that position where we were already in game 2, it looked like it was going to get closed out pretty quickly. And unfortunately, that is exactly what happened there. So,
Yep. So let's see with our production team. Are we going to get an interview with Mr. Nace, or are we just chilling until next round? It's okay if not. We can take a quick commercial break, talk about something else going on. We can talk about the TCG show if y'all wanna, but really up to you.
They got a lot of really cool. I was looking around before. They actually got a lot of really cool stuff. For one, here actually, I'm gonna leave that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ben is coming over for an interview. Okay.
So we'll talk about this later. We're gonna get some Ben action
All right.
here. So,
mind if I interview the victor?
Yes,
Maybe go,
absolutely.
Take a nice little hydration break for yourself.
Yes,
Remember to
absolutely.
hydrate,
Listen.
or else I will probably hurt you if you do not hydrate.
You will or Sfeel will?
Both of us will.
Oh,
Please hydrate.
That's really dangerous.
I'm keeping track of you. Please hydrate.
I will.
Okay.
All right, so we're getting Ben Nace.
Let's get our boy here.
All right, Ben.
Hydration break. Hi, Ben. What's going on, homie? All right.
All right.
Welcome. Hi.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations on your win. I know, definitely an interesting experience, right? This is my second time doing it, so it feels definitely very strange. Simple and quick. Terapagos versus Raging Bolt. Matchup comes down. Seems like you were just prize trading pretty well.
Yeah, it really just comes down to starting a single prize board state. It's not the same threat level of getting like prime captured anymore, so you can kind of like put 2 prizes on the bench. A little risky, but you can do it now.
Okay.
But yeah, really you just look to make them take a 1 prize KO. Just take 3 2 prize KOs. It's very simple.
Definitely seemed like game 2 was a little bit more open and shut. Seemed like a little bit of a brick there, but I mean, anything you saw from David's play that kind of made you change your strategy, or what you were just kind of trading into, or
not too much. I know I was basically looking out for Bravery Charms the whole game.
Okay.
Because Bravery Charms will just completely disrupt my prize map. I got to go look for Clefairy then to actually take a KO.
Okay. Yeah. No, makes sense for sure. I mean, as far as, I guess, what are the key players in that matchup? Terapagos versus Raging Bolt, the numbers do work pretty well in your favor. They have to, it's kind of like Dragapult, where they have to, if they're attacking with Raging Bolt over and over, they have to string together 5 energy KOs.
Yes.
Right? A lot.
Yep.
So I guess as far as getting that set up every time, do you feel like the deck is very consistent at that, or?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty consistent at that, and you definitely have the ability to Iono them and kind of disrupt them to make it harder to actually get to those 5 energies they need every turn.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Excellent. I mean, hey, looks like a pretty open and shut case from your end. You'll be moving on as well at 1-0. Couple rounds in the tournament. We hope to see you in cut. Anything else you want to add for the deck, or anybody else?
Not too much. Deck's really fun. I like it a lot.
All right. Perfect. Hey, appreciate you talking with me for a hot minute there. We will be taking a quick break, and we will be right back with round 2 once it kicks off. So don't go anywhere.